Okay, hello everybody. Please type in the question section if you can hear me and if you can see me and the presentation. Okay, once again, this is sound check. Tell me if you can hear me, if you can see everything, the presentation and myself. Yes. Okay, I've got a lot of yeses. Good. Ooh, so many of you, that's great. Okay, if there is anything with your sound, please check the setting and be sure that your setting meet all the requirements from the platform. And we will begin. Today we are talking about top ways to use visuals in the classroom. I will give you a little bit of theory, some interesting facts, and some activities. My name is Tetiana Šelепko. I'm Cambridge University Press ELT consultant. And before we start, I would like to clarify this question at once with the certificate. First, there is no chat box. There is only a question section where you can ask your questions, and I will answer only at the end of the webinar, not to break it in the middle. And anyways, I see all your questions, and if they are urgent, I will try to answer at once. Then certificate. To get the certificate after the webinar, you will have to fill out the contact form. You will get this contact form, a link to a contact form by email in 1 or 2 or maybe 3 days after the webinar finishes. So it means that you will get it tomorrow or on Sunday or on Monday. Then you fill out the contact form. Then in 3 or 4 days, somewhere at the end of the next week, you will get your certificate. We will be sending them out. So be sure that you write your email properly, that there are no gaps, no numbers which are not needed there or anything. Okay, so this is about certificates. We will stop here at the end. I will repeat that. Now, coming back to top ways to use visuals in the classroom. I want to remind you about multiple intelligence theory. I'm sure you all heard about Howard Gardner and multiple intelligences, and I've been talking about it a lot of times, that this IQ test, it doesn't actually test all the kinds of intelligence. It only tests your logical, visual, and linguistic intelligence. These are only 3. And Howard Gardner says that there are 8 kinds of intelligence. Well, we are using his theory of 8 kinds of intelligence. There is one more. So coming back to Howard Gardner, he says that there is musical intelligence important for us as English teachers. It is important because it is responsible, this kind of intelligence is responsible for our intonating, for understanding whether it's a question or anything else, understanding the context, and it's of course responsible for our pronunciation and our ability to be understandable, and understanding the rhythm and the tempo of the language, where it's appropriate or not. So musical intelligence is crucial, especially for young learners, for teaching young learners. And you know that most of the teaching is songs, chants, and drills, and so on. And all they are rhythmic, as actually our language is in real life, if you pay attention to that. Logical and mathematical intelligence for language, it is important mostly in grammar, in terms of grammar, right? Understanding formulas, structures, remembering them, making it logical. Spatial and visual intelligence is also important for any sphere of education, and today we're going to stop more on visual intelligence, so I will not stop right now. Naturalistic or biological intelligence, important for life, important as a life skill, as having the ecological competence and so on. At English lessons, well, it's difficult to implement some activities that would be dealing with naturalistic intelligence. Kinesthetic and physical intelligence. Kinesthetic is, it means touching and using your body, perceiving the world, and of course moving a lot. And you know that we clap, we tap, we do some movements when we are learning songs, and we involve both intelligences together. So moving is crucial for young learners as well as visuals and musical intelligence, because when that's how they discover the world. They move a lot. They cannot sit at one place and concentrate. So movement is physical intelligence is the same important as linguistic at English lessons. Linguistic intelligence, of course, well, no need to stop on it. Interpersonal and intrapersonal are separate kinds of intelligence, says Howard Gardner. And for us as English teachers, interpersonal, it's about communication, collaboration, teamwork, project work, and so on. And intrapersonal is important for, well, if talking about young learners, how we develop that, especially for new Ukrainian school, this is self-assessment, self-esteem, portfolio, being able to work alone and to assess and to analyze, reflect on students' own study. Okay, so here in written, visual, spatial, linguistic, verbal, mathematical, kinesthetic or physical, musical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic. He also said that there is existential intelligence, but we will not get to this. If you're interested, you can read about it. It's a lot of fun. So before we move to the next slide, I would ask you to, I've got some questions here. There is no sound. Tell me, can you hear me now? Okay, everybody can hear me, I guess. Great. So if there is no sound, please check your own settings. Everything is okay on our side. And before we move on, I would like you to vote for a few answers. Okay, I will set now the poll, and your task is to vote. I will give you 1 minute to vote. The question is, visuals for language learning: develop visual thinking, develop cognitive thinking, work with visual learners only. Okay, I will give you more than 1 minute because only 40% voted. So continue a little bit. We will wait at least for 60% votes. Okay, for now we've got, okay, voting is still in process. I will wait a little bit more. Okay, 67% of people voted, so I'm closing the poll at this number, and the result is 40% of people out of almost 500 participants, 40% think that visuals at the lessons, visuals for language learning, develop visual thinking. 54% think that they develop cognitive thinking, and 5% think that visuals work with visual learners only. I am really glad that only 5% voted for the third option, and I am really glad that the second option had the most votes. Yes, the visuals, they don't only develop visual thinking. There is, I'm not sure there is such a term, visual thinking, but yeah, there are visual learners who perceive information visually much better than in other way. But visuals for the lessons, they develop cognitive thinking, which means that they support learning with creating a concept of a word for students, with organizing information in their head depending on the visuals. Later on, I will explain more about why it develops cognitive thinking rather than visual thinking. Okay, and before we go to that, I would like to share some, I made a research and I would like to share some facts and figures. You can think what this represents, what these figures represent, and I will show you what it does represent. Yeah, what can that be? 90%, maybe 90 days. Okay, if I get any answers, that would be nice. Okay. I didn't get any answers, so anyways, I will tell you what this is. So 60,000, it's the times, 60,000 times faster processing of pictures than, oh, okay, I've got a little mistake here, I'm sorry. I think something happened when I started the slideshow. So our brain, what it means, yeah, 60,000 times. Our brain can process images 100 times faster than text. 90% stands for 90% of information we receive visually. It means that 10% of information we receive orally, with the smell and taste and kinesthetically and so on. 90% of all the information we receive is lost on the way to brain. So it means that we receive a huge amount of information, but only 10% can be processed. 34, it's the amount of information that we receive daily. There is this researcher from California. I forgot his name, but he had this research on how much information we receive, and he said that every day people read about 105,000 words, which means 23 words per second approximately. And if to split it into 12 hours per day, like half of all the time, and of course we don't process all this information, but if we add to this 105,000 words, if we add all the media, all the TV shows, all the commercials, outside titles, names of shops, and so on, and newspapers, we can see this is the amount of information that we receive visually. And this is 34 gigabytes. And 7 is the amount of days that it takes a powerful computer to be overloaded by these 34 gigabytes of information. But of course, computer processes all this information. We process only 10% of all we get. And usually we choose what to process. So it means that there are visual learners who get information, who understand information better visually. But we, all of us, all the people, we perceive information visually mostly. Yes, 90% of it is through the eyes. And you know that the human's eye is the most complex and developed out of all the animals in the world. That's why we don't use our sense of smell. We don't use our hands to discover the world and to get information, yes, like animals do. Mostly they rely on their sense of smell. What we do, we work with our eyes. Okay, so moving on. There are a few nice researchers I also wanted to show you, and here is Richard Gregory. He's a psychiatrist, psychologist, and he has visual assumption theory. He said that processing visual information is a top-down process, which means that we use all our background information to understand an image. And he had this test with a rotating mask of Charlie Chaplin. I haven't found the one with Charlie Chaplin, but I will show you another one. Look at that, what you can see. Okay. Okay, so I think that's enough. From what we know about the world and from what we know about human face, we know that nose should protrude from the face, right? And this is our background knowledge. So when we see the hollow mask on the behind, our mind automatically, according to the background knowledge, reconstructs this retruded face into the normal one, because this is what we are used to. We are not used to see that kind of face to another direction, right? And this is how our visual processes are happening all the time. We receive that 90% of information, and 10% of information comes to our brain because we can connect it to something else we already saw. And the rest, which is not our in our competency, right? We just filter all this information. So using visuals is really important, but you need to know that students have some background about these visuals. Another research held by Sanoki and Salmon's it's a color relations experiment. They were saying that, well, this is an experiment. They gave these pictures to people. There were 4 groups of people, and they were saying whether it's harmonious, disharmonious, and so on. And according to this color pattern, these color patterns, they made their research on how short memory works and how long-term memory works. And they found that when people see images with harmonious colors, which means that the colors are from one set, like this one. When they see harmonious colors, they remember information they saw much longer than when they see disharmonious colors. Disharmonious ones, they don't they don't help to remember information. And when they saw contrasting colors, at once they found it as disharmonious. So talking about the materials you use with your students, right, it is important that these materials have harmonious colors, not very contrasting. And talking about the classroom setting, right, if you have yellow walls with green posters and purple, I don't know, purple something else, and curtains, and everything is bright and colorful, it creates this harmony in the classroom. So mind how you set your classroom. And one more research that might be important for us as English teachers is binocular rivalry phenomenon. Binocular rivalry phenomenon is something that about the consequences of the images the human mind is able to perceive. And there were four researchers who provided this research on another group of people, and they gave two different images. You can see here a face and a house, and they were looking at these images through the half green, half red stereo glasses, and both images were being perceived separately, and as a result they couldn't understand what exactly they saw. First of all, because these images do not connect to each other, and second, because when we separately see something, we cannot perceive it as a piece of information. It's just image that we don't get and we forget at once. So what's important here, when you show flashcards, when you present, especially when you present new material, for example, flashcards with food, when you present new material, you shouldn't be showing them all at once, because students won't be able to remember anything, right? They go one by one, one by one, and so on. All at once is only when they've learned everything, they know all the words, and they can focus. When you present new vocabulary, please be careful and don't show all the cards at once. Fine. Moving on. What does it mean for us as language teachers? It means, well, I told you a few words about how to use visuals. They should be harmonious, they should be in the correct sequence, or they should be from one topic. If these are flashcards, they should be one by one when presenting. And actually there is another researcher of Cambridge University Press, Maria Papadopoulou, and she categorized the use of visuals. She said that visuals can be illustrative, effective, attentive, didactic, supportive, and retentive. All of them have their own functions depending on the stage of a lesson and the aim of a lesson and the aim of use of these visuals. And you can see here that illustrative, just to illustrate something, a word, a new word, story, or so on. Effective, to enhance interest and motivate. That can be some image with some humor to motivate, or in the stories, like picture or photo stories, they are motivating because it's interesting what's going to happen. We can see some story, but we don't know exactly what happened, so it motivates. Attentive, to attract and direct attention. It's really good, this kind of visuals, good for giving instructions. For example, I have my friend, and you see he's also a visual for the lesson, right? And when you're giving instructions, especially modal instruction, like, what's your name? My name is Trevor, and so on. Yeah, you model some text, and you get their attention with such kind of visuals. Didactic, to show something difficult to convey in words, like, for example, pictograms for grammar sections. I will show that later. Supportive, to help less able learners, like diagrams, tables, and so on, to organize the material. Again, I will show this later. And retentive, to facilitate memory skills. Well, when we see something and read something, we remember it better than we only read something, or, of course, if we only see something. Okay, moving on. Robert Tomlinson said that visualization leads to unique cognitive and effective consequences that heighten the reader's experience and is one of the most effective means of achieving understanding, interpretation, representation, retention, and recall. Also, he was saying that if we have a picture and some text or some listening activity or reading activity, if there is a picture, it's much easier for students to create the concept of a notion than if there is only text. Because imagine if I were just speaking right now and there was no presentation, and I was describing those rotating masks and everything. Actually, the information is the same, but when there is no visualization of this information, you wouldn't remember anything, you wouldn't understand half. So yeah, even if there are most audio learners here, okay? I'm talking a lot and I don't know whether you can see me, hear me. I get no questions. Can you see me and hear me well? No one, sir. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Huh. Okay, can you type that in the question section? Whether I'm audible? Oh, it's back. Great. Thank you very much. Oh, there are smiley faces. Thank you. Okay. Okay, great. Now I can continue. Sorry to distract from the webinar. Fine, let's move on. What visuals are there in your classroom? Well, posters, flashcards, Pictionaries, drawings, course book itself, realia, and what else can be visuals? Actually, these can be students themselves, especially when you are studying, when you're learning new vocabulary, parts of body, yeah? Brown eyes, green eyes. When you're learning clothes, you can bring some food and so on. Realia works much better than pictures as well, because it involves spatial, visual intelligence, and if they can touch it, yes, and they understand, at least they understand they can touch it. It's kinesthetic intelligence, and it's interpersonal intelligence and intrapersonal intelligence, because self-reflection, what color are my eyes, and so on. So visuals is everything we can see. So we have to be, we are lucky from one side, but another side, we need to be really careful with that. What kind of visuals surround our students. Talking about how to use visuals, there are 5 ways of looking at the language. Yes, structures, vocabulary, functions, situations, and skills. And we can use visuals for structures. First, the mother is sitting at the table. She is eating, I guess it's cheese. Everybody is eating cheese, right? So she's eating cheese. Then vocabulary. Mom, brother, cousin, and so on. We can just name green, round, square, and so on. Or clothes. We can just name all the words we can see at the picture. Functions. It's about some structures we use, not grammar structures, but communicative structures. Yes, it's for more advanced level. Would you like some cheese? Yes, please, and so on. Yeah, suggesting, or well, different functions of language. Suggesting here can be a complaint. Yeah, this. Soup, porridge. This porridge is not very good, or so on. Situations. We could write a dialogue between these people. Again, it's functions and situations somewhere together. Or we can create another story on this image, because who's that? I guess it's Whisper. Yeah. Situation, Whisper is late again. He's not gonna have his breakfast. Hey, Whisper, why are you late again? And so on. Yeah. So they can create a situation out of this picture. And of course, skills, communicative skills, just to play out this situation. Okay. Now getting to the activities. I will see how much time we have. Great. So activities. First, visuals for presentation of new vocabulary. And we've got a lot of flashcards to present our new vocabulary. We go one by one, then we can have it all in the row. After presenting and naming all the, like, elephant, mouse, and so on, naming it all, we can play some memory game with them. Oh, sorry. Okay, instead of disappearing, they appear. Anyways, we can take away one of the flashcards and ask them to continue without it, like here. Yeah, what was the first one? And they say elephant, mouse, frog, and so on in a row. After that, you take away one more picture of a dog, for example, and they have to say dog at this place. Then you reorder them and ask them to name these pictures again, and then again you can take away one of the pictures from this particular row. You can reorder according to the age of these animals, what they think in their groups, and then compare. You can reorder according to how dangerous these animals are. And in this case, what is the order? What is the category of the order on the slide? Can you tell me? Like, we have age, for example, we have dangerous, friendly animals. And what is the order here, the easiest one? Can anybody answer? Okay, nobody's answered. I will repeat the question. What is the category of the order of these animals? It's not age. It's not how dangerous they are. Why the order is this way? Any ideas? Come on. Later on, you will be able to use these ideas for your own reordering. For example, from the one I like the most to the one I don't like most. Okay, I don't get any answers, but I've got a lot of activities, so I will just continue. This one is from the biggest to the smallest. As you see, the elephant is the first spider, and in between they get smaller and smaller. Well, I was thinking about the lizard and mouse, but there are different lizards and mice. Fine. I will move on. Other ideas with flashcards, miming games, you can give them different animals, like this animal for one team, this animal for another team, just for one person. They look at this picture and then they have to mime it. The rest has to guess it, right? The easiest one. Gallery walk. You can hang all these pictures around the classroom, and that's a nice TPR activity. You call out an animal, and they have to run up to the flashcard on the wall. Another one, preposition game. You can just take a spider, take a spider, and the spider is on the bottle, the spider is next to the bottle, the spider is under the bottle, and so on. So preposition games with flashcards, hide and seek games. You can hide a flashcard somewhere, especially it's nice for directions, giving directions topic. It makes sense, yeah, why to go somewhere. Go right, turn left, behind the desk, find the spider, or find the spider under a desk. So hide and seek is also about prepositions or giving directions. And yes, no questions. If you need to drill, it is it, and it's a structure. You can give each student a card with some word, and they first you drill the word and you drill the structures at the same time. So I've got a flashcard. Another student comes up to me. Here is my other student. Come here. Okay, and he says, "Is it a frog?" And I say, "No, it's not a frog." But the task is not to say yes or no. If I said no, I have to give away my card. So, is it a frog? It's not a frog. Yeah. Is it an elephant? It's not an elephant. I'm not allowed to say yes, no. Yeah. As a student, is it a lizard? It is. It's a lizard. And done. So he goes away. If I said no or yes, I give him my flashcard, and I have no flashcard, but I'm allowed to ask questions and win another flashcard. So this yes, no exercise is really nice for as a steering up exercise and for some critical thinking processes in their minds, at the same time remembering tasks and being specific with the task. And of course, it's game, it's motivating, it's competitive, so it's a lot of fun. Drilling instruction, drilling structures, drilling vocabulary, fun, great. Okay, another one. Pictures in the course book. What I've done here, I cut out all the pictures and I put them on the slide. And I know that the sample of Quick Minds 1 for Ukraine, for example, is on the internet, so you can do the same and put it on the slide, or you can even print it if you wish. Print it, cut it out, and in groups, students have to put it in the correct order. First, you give them just these pictures, and they need to think what happened. Before they open the book, they are not allowed to open their books yet. Yeah, so they order these pictures according to what they think. Then you can go to this publishing linguist website. Okay. You go here. Sorry, I will do it this way. This is publishinglinguist.ua. Then you go to Quick Minds for Ukraine. And then you find free interactive component. You go here. Choose the topic you need.
Lunchtime.
Find the story.
Story.
And here we go. Okay. I will stop here for a while. Now they can check whether, oh, that's a pity. Whether their assumptions were correct. Yeah, they can see that this might be the first picture. And then while watching the story, they will see all other pictures and reorder them. So this is about active watching and active listening, using visuals and connecting it to listening at the same time. Okay, moving on. Yeah, and then they check it with the book, they open the book, and then they are ready to watch the story or just listen to the story again and see and do all the further exercises. Fine. What's also good about Quick Minds, there are cutouts. Yeah, cuts from these pictures, and they have to find in which picture it was. You'd think that it's useless for language, but it's really good for critical thinking, for the beginning of critical thinking, finding the connections, finding the things that go together, and so on. And another one to add some intrigue, to make some surprise for your students, you can use, you can just take a paper with a hole or a piece of any paper with a hole and put it on some photography. And the task of the students is to guess what's there. Can you guess what's there behind this paper? What's behind the paper? I guess it takes time with your answers. I'm sure you are answering, I just don't see it at once. Okay. No, not yet. Okay. Oh, just so many answers here and so many questions that it's difficult to spot which one is the one to my question. Right. Huh. I think I will get the answers later, and I'm sure someone said crocodile. Well, yes, this is crocodile. And you can use this little piece of paper for different photos for students, just to get their attention, to motivate them. Yeah, it doesn't give us much as for learning purposes, but for motivating and engaging purposes, it's a great instrument. Okay, I will move on. Pictograms and grammar. I think you've seen, if you're using Quick Minds, you've seen that there are lots of pictures for grammar sections. Yeah, likes, dislikes, dogs, and everything. And it's understandable from here that some humor again, some attention. And again, creating a concept in the students' minds. There is another activity, the dragon and the king. I've told about this activity in some other webinar. I'd like to remind it because it's a great activity. I've tried it with different students of different levels, and it works all the time. So there is a dragon. You don't tell them the whole story at once. You ask them different questions, like here. What color is the dragon? What does he like? Depending on the level of the students, yeah, you can ask different questions. If these are more advanced, or teenagers, or even young adults, you can ask them, what is dragon thinking about, and so on. So what does he, I can't see what's here. What has he got? He's got a tail, he's got hands, he's got legs, and so on. Then we have, what can he do? He can jump, he can, and so on. So you can create different questions for that. Then you ask students, what do you think happened in this picture? And most of the students say that the dragon eats the king. That's what they say. But then I collect all these answers where the dragon is super aggressive and they are rivals and so on. So then I tell them the real story. There is a dragon which lives in a tree. Every day a king sits under the dragon's tree. He reads stories to the dragon because the dragon didn't go to school and cannot read. And the king was very smart and he was reading a lot and so on. So they listen to this story. They are surprised that the king and the dragon are friends and so on. So after that, we asked a lot of questions, we recycled a lot of vocabulary items, and then we can move to this story. And after that, you can make a project with your students. Why projects? Why drawing? Why arts and crafts? For example, Nick Susanis, he's a cartoonist and comics writer, and he has that we draw not to transcribe ideas from our heads, but to generate them in search of deeper understanding. This is what he thinks about drawing. And that's true, because when students draw, they acquire the language, they acquire the idea. If this is a word, yeah, and they have to draw a hand, they acquire it, becomes their hand, and they understand it much better and deeper, as Nick Susanis says. And drawing activities are really important for building this concept, for developing cognitive thinking, yeah, stronger connections between the word and the notion and the concept. Okay, so there are different drawing activities with pre-drawing and post-drawing, listening and speaking activities in Quick Minds, and it's very important to use them at the lessons, not to ignore them. And okay, I will omit this slide. It's really good to work with graphic organizers, and if we are talking about young learners, it is also great to make mind maps with them and to work on their critical thinking skills, because to organize information is critical and analytical thinking. So there are different types of graphic organizers, like mind maps, where you put clothes and then you write all the clothes. You put colors, all the colors. Or it can be clothes for legs, and here clothes for upper part of your body. Anyways, they can somehow subdivide it. Then we have target diagrams. Here we can work with things that are more important, least important, focusing, unfocusing, or global, local things. Like if we're talking about young learners, then they can put what's they like less, what they like more, yeah, in this target diagrams. If we are talking about adults or teenagers, they can put for example some ecological problem, and here what it means for me, what it means for my country, what it means for the world, according to these circles. Venn diagrams to find similarities and differences between two categories. This is spider XY comparisons. It's very similar to Venn diagrams, but here their choice is limited. You have to find 3 similarities, 3 differences between two options. Crossed continuums. Well, this is more for teenagers, for example, to find what's cheaper, what's more expensive, what's more important, what's less important, and so on. For young learners, that's also applicable. If they're talking about likes and dislikes. For example, I like dogs here, and I dislike something here. But it's kind of difficult for them to understand what the cross stands for, so it's more for adults and teens. And flow diagrams to see the results and to see the reason and the result of it. Again, better for teenagers. For young learners, if we're talking about organizers, we can organize some alphabet books, and yeah, here they have an alphabet book, and they can create it on their own, which will be more valuable for the students than if they have something ready. Some other activities like guess the picture. Students have to ask questions. Another student is standing here. Here you write a word. Doodles, the zero preparation activity, when you draw anything on the whiteboard or blackboard and ask them to brainstorm what can it be, like 2 dancing snakes or number 8 or anything else. Just for engaging, motivating, ice-breaking, or any warm-up thing, or just to get their attention back and to have some fun. Another one is picture dictation, like they have to draw, or you can have cutouts of all the objects and you dictate. There is a dog under the tree, there is an apple on the tree, and so on. Pass it round. You draw something, for example, 2 lines, and all the others have to add up to the picture, and then they have to describe what is happening in the picture. And why it's valuable, because it's a teamwork, all of them are involved, one by one they add something, and you can have a paper for each student. They just pass it and get another one, so everybody is involved. There's not just one paper going around the classroom. Bingo games, again, you tell the word, like red balloon, blue balloon, green balloon, and they cross out until they win and shout bingo. Talking about realia, zero preparation again. Do you have a banana in your bag? No, and so on. Is there a pen in your bag? Yes, there is a pen in my bag, and you show it. Then they can do the same in pairs or in small groups. So you model it first with some friend, yeah, and then you can move to pair work, which is also important in your classroom. It's super noisy, but very important for developing communicative skills. Some other ideas, what can be done with the pictures. For example, it's easy to draw, even using some chalk in your classroom, and to draw the way of this fly. A fly at the window in our for young learners, yeah, a fly at the window, a fly in the house or in the room, a fly at the door, a fly above the table is above the table, a fly is next to the table, and so on. Another one is I like this one because you can draw a face, cut it out, and then write all the words for it, and have such a funny book. Or it can be a project for your students, so they can do it on their own. Or another one for emotions, for them to say the proper emotions. This is called emotional twins. So you turn it and the emotion is different. Of course, it's not for young learners, but you can apply it for young learners in some other way. And it's really fun to do this as a project. Or for activities, for structures, yeah, we can see a girl. What is she doing? This is why this question important here, because if you just see the picture, there is no point in asking a question because it's visible. Everybody can see that, yeah. And if you hide it, yeah, you hide what she's doing, then you can ask a question. What is she doing? And then you open it, she's jumping over a bush. Well, that's what I have. So these are some funny ideas. What's new about Cambridge University Press? You can go to these new sections at cambridge.org website. This is a young learners section with different demo lessons and materials, resources for young learners, and Cambridge Secondary, the same samples, resources, demo lessons for secondary students. If you still don't know how to get the book for the first form of New Ukrainian School, for those who voted for Quick Minds and got it from the government, you can apply to get the teacher's book from the linguist company. You go to Publishing Linguist UA, and the first title you see there, how to get the book. We are now voting for best presenters on YouTube, and you can give your voice for somebody you like if you go to facebook.com Cambridge UPELT. And my favorite competition of this year's dedicated teacher awards. If interested, well, I think we don't have time to watch the video, so I will not show it. If interested, you can go to our Facebook page and check all the news there, or you can write me an email. And if interested in some products, you can call here. Linguist Company is an official distributor of Cambridge University Press in Ukraine. And again, certificate. You will get the thank you letter in 1 or 2 days after the webinar. There will be a link to a contact form. You fill out the contact form and wait 3 or 2 days after it. Then we will send out all the certificates. Be sure that you fill in your email address properly. Do you have any questions? And I will read some of your questions. I don't know, something went wrong, so I don't see your questions properly. Ooh, now I see crocodile. Somebody wrote that. Okay, I don't see any questions. Actually, if you have questions, because I think something went wrong with the platform. So if you have questions and there were no answers during the webinar, please write them maybe in Facebook or to me directly, and I will answer those questions because I can't see them here. Maybe in the chat. No. All right. So if there are questions maybe about the video recording of the webinar, there might be such a question. It will be available on Facebook next week. So you can, if you don't remember anything, you will be able to watch it again. And there you can also ask your questions. I'm really sorry, I just don't see any of your questions. I think it's something with the connection, or I don't know. So thank you for listening to me today. Here is my thank you. And see you in a month on the next webinar.